Well, hi everybody. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Thank you for joining me. We're going to now journey through an ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, female ex-Jehovah's Witness by the name of ERIN's letter. It's a passionate plea that she sent to her family and remaining friends within the organisation. Let's go, shall we? I really would like your comments on this. I'm going to position myself up in the corner. There we go, and let's go. Here we go. Hi guys. Before you read this letter, please stop and pray for the ability to read the letter and come to know I am doing as we are invited at James 4:4. So there's a lot of scripture content in this by the sound of it. Draw close to God. And how do you draw close to God? Through Christ. And he will draw close to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you indecisive ones. Now, how do you cleanse your hands, and how do you purify your heart? You surrender to Christ, and you allow his Spirit to work in you. It's not something that you make an effort to do yourself. See, the harder we try, Romans chapter 7, the more wicked we become. I know that's very blunt, but Romans chapter 7 says that the more we think we need to do or not do to make God happy or stop him from being sad, the more wicked we become. So cleansing our hands and purifying our hearts is more of an act of surrender than it is one of works, as I would say. And this is why a lot of religious people don't know how to do this. It sounds very easy, doesn't it? But they just don't know how to do it. Please don't scan over the scriptures. I copied and pasted from our Bible. This is a New World Translation, I would imagine. So she's being fair. Please carefully read each one. Now, I also prayed before each session that I sat down to write this. I prayed that I could use scripture to explain my thoughts, which is a pretty hard thing to do, even as a theologist. It takes a lot of effort to try and use scripture to express what you're trying to say. So this will be very interesting, because I haven't read this myself. We're going through this together, that I could express it like how we are instructed at 1 Peter 3:15. But sanctify the Christ as Lord in your hearts. Well, the interesting thing about that, how that's being translated, is it's Christ that actually sanctifies your heart, not you sanctifying the Christ as Lord. How do you sanctify the Christ as Lord? You just believe in what he's done. That's it. Romans 10, that if you confess with your mouth the Lord, Jehovah Jesus Christ, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Always ready to make a defense before anyone who demands of you a reason for the hope you have, but doing so with a mild temper and deep respect. Now, let's go on. Here we go. This is the actual content of we're shifting from scripture and this scriptural introduction into ERIN's letter. I know that you guys have sensed for months that something is wrong with me, and there has been. You may have unrest and unsettled feeling. For that, I'm truly sorry. Before I get into it, I want to take this time to let you know I love you guys. I cherish every moment of our times together. The laughs, the cries, all of it. Please, please, just absorb that. Mum wrote me a letter once when I was a teenager. In all honesty, I'm not sure how I haven't lost it in moving so many times. Her words expressed how desperate she was that I wasn't spiritually inclined. I was distracted, mostly by boys, the letter says. Lots of laughs. Now, I just want to say, that's just a normal progression of life. There's religions out there that are, what would you say, they're smothercating people with rules about not integrating with the opposite sex. Now, I mean in a healthy way, but they've just suffocated it to the point where a lot of these young people haven't got a clue, and they get married and they lose their marriages because they've got no clue of the opposite sex. And unfortunately, what could have been good marriages are lost due to ignorance and, again, religious rules. How true that was. In fact, I had wondered why I hadn't inherited the spiritual genes she had. Obviously, her mother was very, very committed in her religion. I found the letter again when I started studying after Dad died. While I was in the process of studying, I loved reading the Bible. For the first time in my life, I had what she had desired that I had had all along. I realized I had a spiritual need. But the truth is, I've always somehow, somewhere deep inside me, the need to feel like I'm not hiding from God. Even as a rebellious teenager getting into all sorts of trouble, seriously not putting it together that the people in the Bible were more than just characters like Mickey Mouse, Indiana Jones, Superman, etc., but actual people like you and me. Can I just say, Superman and all these superhero characters, they come from Adam. They come from our subconscious knowing of who Adam was. Adam was a superhuman being. He had the power to name all the animals of the world. He was made in the image and likeness of God. So when Jesus was raptured and he went up into the sky, Adam would just have to have the thought, and he'd be Superman, he'd be Aquaman, he had dominion over the fish of the sea. Our natural being before we fell was a supernatural being, like what we see in these superheroes. Let's say, for instance, the Olympics. The Olympics is a presentation of who is the closest to what we were. Who's the fastest runner? Who got as fast at running as what we were before we fell? That's what the Olympics is. It's our effort to try and get back to, or at least show what we were at our best. I had always been the one who decided to confess my sins before God to the elders. I don't understand confessing your sins before God to the elders. I've never done that in my whole life. I've never ever felt that I've had to confess my sins to anybody else except the people that I hurt, like when you say sorry to somebody for hurting them. But now it was like I was actually listening to God and not just acknowledging He's somewhere out there watching all my bad behaviour and trouble with boys. Gee, she must have liked the boys. I would say that courteously, Erin. When I would open the Bible and read it, it felt like God was talking to me as an individual, and that makes me sense. That makes sense because it says at Hebrews 4:12, "For the word of God is living and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of soul and spirit, joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart." When Mum was here for Zach's grad, she asked what was going on. I told her about what I'm going to tell you now. Here we go. In Mum's email she wrote me after she left my house, she used Proverbs 3:5-8. Trust in Jehovah with all your heart and do not rely on your own understanding. Now, excuse me. Again, we have a passage. I can't help it when it comes to these passages. We have to understand things because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Everything has to, see, the crux of knowledge is to get the understanding of it. When it comes to trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding, how do you mix that with having to have a natural form of understanding? Well, it's about faith, isn't it? You can't understand faith. You can't lean on your own understanding when it comes to faith. I'll tell you why. I'll just jump to, I'm sure Erin won't mind this. Talking about understanding and faith. Therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which so easily ensnares us. Now that's talking about what we think we need to do or not do to make God happy or stop Him from being sad, which causes us to do religiously empowered evil. And let us run the race with endurance that is set before us, looking unto Jesus the what? He's the author and the finisher of our faith. So this is something that we don't want to, this is something that we really don't want to face, because we want to have our own input into our faith. But you've got to let go, because Jesus is the author and the finisher of our faith. He's the one that manages our faith. He's the one that looks up after our relationship with God, because we can't manage our faith all the time. We'd be exhausted. So where it says do not rely on your own understanding, it's not saying to neglect your ability to understand. What I believe it's saying is Jesus is the author and finisher of your faith. He is going to help you with Jehovah, which he did at the cross. So it says trust in Jehovah with all your heart. You can't do that. You can't trust anything with all your heart. It just doesn't work that way. It only leads to disappointment, doesn't it? Not only that, we don't have the internal ability to do that. But that's where Jesus is the author and finisher of our faith. And that takes away our constant looking and searching and trying to make efforts to make God happy or stop him from being sad. See, this is where religious organizations get you. They make you think that there's always something you need to do or not do. This scripture is suggesting that you lean not on your own understanding. Well, you start to abandon your ability to think, if you really want to take that as it were. But if you apply Jesus to it, it actually enhances your understanding. And do not rely on your own in all your ways take notice of him, and he will make your paths straight. Do not become wise in your own eyes. Fear Jehovah and turn away from bad. Now, how do you fear Jehovah? I'll tell you how you fear Jehovah. If you want to see how harmful and evil and what Jehovah can do, look at the cross. Look at what happened to Jesus on the cross. Because it was Jehovah that put him there, wasn't it? And he went there voluntarily. But the fear of Jehovah is Jesus crucified. So that fixes that, doesn't it? Doesn't it? You don't have to worry anymore, because the express revealing of Jehovah's fear, of what it is to fear Jehovah, was carried out when Jesus died on the cross, because Jesus took all of God's wrath on the cross, didn't he? He took the sin on himself, and then he took the punishment for that sin on himself. So Jehovah really doesn't need to be feared anymore. He needs to just be his friend. That's all it is. All this other stuff's just religious language. It will be a excuse me. It will be a healing to your body and refreshment to your bones. Well, isn't that what Jesus is? The people that he gave sight to, the people that he healed, us now, knowing that everything's all right between us and God, and we don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. We should have that healing in our bodies and the refreshment in our bones, because there's nothing to worry about anymore. It's all been done in Christ. He's the one that's writing our faith, and he's the one that's finishing our faith. He writes the introduction and he writes the conclusion, but the conclusion's a crescendo of eternal life. I agree we need to do that. We hear and we learn from God through his word. We do. We really do. Okay. At the Christmas season, I had a passenger get on my bus because my bus was empty and she was sitting right next to me with her baby. I asked her how her holiday season was going. Obviously, we look for occasions to informal witness, and I use occasions like this to do that. Simply because after you ask them how their holiday went, 9 times out of 10, they reciprocate the question to you. Here's where I look for the opportunity to talk about the Bible. Since I've always been way more comfortable in formal witnessing than in the door-to-door ministry, I can't understand the door-to-door ministry. I really can't. Something I've always struggled with, and in all honesty have not been regular with ever. So I try to make up for it witnessing at work. Well, see, that's great, that's all good, but sometimes we're motivated to share Christ out of guilt. And that's not a good motivation, because then you begin to practice everything out of guilt. You start to be motivated by guilt. And that's not a good motivation, because after a while it brings you down. Once I asked her, she asked me. So I told her I was a Jehovah's Witness, and right away she said she was raised as one and that her mother still is. Gee, that's coincidental, but that she felt as a teenager she looked about 25. Wow. Anyway, we talked about that for a bit, and then just before she got off my bus, she asked if I had heard about the Australian Royal Commission investigation into Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh my goodness, that's here, right where I live. And I said no. She said, yay, it was crazy that they had found 106 pedophiles and over 1,800 victims in just Australia alone. Tell us about it. And don't worry, the Australian government hasn't finished with that. You're going to hear a lot more about this in the future, I'm telling you, because the Australian government is using the redress scheme to be the avenue that's going to wrap up the organisations that are not taking accountability. And guess who's at the top of the list? The Jehovah's Witnesses. So just be patient. The Australian government's going to sort this out, that the organisation knew about but failed to report to the authorities. That's actually an accomplice to the sexual abuse. Zero were reported. I was shocked. I didn't believe it was possible. Then she got off my bus. I drove around, ticked off that Satan was spreading lies about God's organisation, insinuating that God doesn't protect his children. See, children really are at the mercy of us adults. Let's just get this straight. Just put God to the side for a minute. I just shared a story yesterday about two Christian people in some religious group that they had the baby at home. They didn't want to go to the hospital, and the kid, there were twins, and one of them died. They just got 6 years jail. Well, this is all going to come back into this is all heading towards the Jehovah's Witnesses blood doctrines and stuff, because there's going to be people that get into government that know the Bible. Like Angus Stewart knew the Bible a bit, the guy at the Royal Commission, the South African man. But he couldn't go right into it because it was outside the legal definitions of how to deal with these kind of people. That's where the redress scheme is going to tidy this up. But we adults are the ones that are responsible for the children, and we are the ones that are accountable. But deep inside I had this burning feeling. The reason is because I was sexually abused between the ages of 6 to 13. I'm sorry to hear that. In literally every city we lived in by different people. As a child, I thought that's what was supposed to happen. I thought it was supposed to be a secret. Don't tell any adults. In more recent times, when I hear stories of the Catholic Church and its mishandling of adult pedophiles, therefore inflicting pain on more and more children, I was so angry. Then I would think to myself, how is it Catholic members can possibly stay Catholic knowing their leaders failed to protect their own people? Watching the horrors of how the abuse destroyed families. It was all heartbreaking. At the time, I would be so thankful that I was a part of an organisation where it looked after its members, protected us, than to hear rumour it's not, and I was in disbelief. It's a subject that deeply affected my life, and as for a free moral agent, I have a right to find out for myself, if in fact it's true. Determined not to be led away by Satan and to go on apostate sites, I googled Australian Royal Commission Jehovah's Witnesses. Now listen to this. The very first suggestion was the Australian Commission's government site. We Jehovah's Witnesses are case study number 29, meaning we were the 29th group being investigated. My whole reality ended. It was true. There was also a link for video footage from YouTube of the court proceedings. It's all on video footage. It sure is. When I saw the video footage of the governing body member Jeffrey Jackson in court at the Australian Royal Commission in Australia being asked if the governing body is inspired of God, and his reply was that they are not inspired or infallible. And he actually said it would be presumptuous to think that. I thought, what? Oh my God, I have been trusting a group of men with my salvation, and my immediate thought was the scripture at Psalm 146:3, do not put your trust in princes, nor in a son of man, who cannot bring salvation. Inspired and Spirit-directed are the exact same thing, and no one is going to tell me otherwise. Holy Spirit directed The Bible writers record the scriptures for us. At our meetings, I regularly hear from the platform that this is God's spirit-directed organisation. Well, it's not. It's just an organisation that's gotten through the net, which, as Marcus Vaughan says, anybody can start a church. I could go and start a church tomorrow if I wanted. And it's grown into a massive business, the Jehovah's Witnesses. I ask myself how it is possible if Jeffrey admitted the governing body isn't inspired. But it got worse. Not only did Jeffrey Jackson say the above statement, he was also asked by the lawyer if he felt that the governing body was God's only spokesman, and he's using today. Jeffrey Jackson said, I think it would be presumptuous to say that. So ERIN's done her homework here, hasn't she? We're up to 20 minutes. We'll go to 30, eh? I wanted to vomit. I was so upset. Jesus said at Luke 21:12-25, but therefore all those things happen. But before all these things happen, people will lay their hands on you and persecute you, handing you over to the synagogues and prisons. You will be brought before kings and governors for the sake of my name. It will result in your giving a witness. Therefore, resolve in your hearts not to rehearse beforehand what you will say or think, because I will give you words and wisdom that all your adversaries will not be able to contradict or resist. Sorry, that's from the New King James Version, not this version. I can only ask myself, why would Jesus indicate it would be presumptuous to think Jehovah's Witnesses are God's only organisation? It is crazy to think that the Jehovah's Witnesses are the only organisation that God's using. I can remember just recently down on the waterfront speaking to a pretty high elder in our area. He gets out and evangelises. He's a really nice bloke, totally deceived. It's very sad. And full on for this Jehovah's Witness organisation. And he honestly believed that they were the only organisation on the earth doing God's work. He honestly, sincerely believed it. And I just couldn't believe that an adult in Australia would think such a thing. What is he trying to tell us? The thing is, we're surrounded on the central coast here of New South Wales by all sorts of church groups. All sorts of church groups that are doing great work, that have food for the homeless and all this other stuff. You don't see the Jehovah's Witnesses around here doing any of that. What is he trying to tell us? In all honesty, guys, that's my big problem. Jesus told the public it's presumptuous to think we are God's only spokesman. He's using today. Now, Jesus, so she's saying if Jeffrey Jackson could be likened to Jesus, it would be presumptuous to think we are God's only spokesman he's using today. Am I going to argue with Jesus? Absolutely not. Yeah, I see what she's saying, yeah. The court case got even worse. It did. It really deteriorated, didn't it? Of all the groups investigated, which included all religions, sports groups, and any other groups that deal with children, so it can't even be argued that it was persecution, since all groups were being investigated, not just Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses were the worst group for how it handled cases of child abuse. Yep, that means worse than the Catholic religion. They also have refused to change the two-witness rule. Yep, so unless two children come forward about the same perpetrator, and the perpetrator denies it, it's left in Jehovah's hands to handle it in his own due time. And that is absolutely ridiculous. That just goes to show how blindsided these people that are running these organisations are. Any hint of harm to a child and I'd be off to the coppers, the police. Unless the parents have the courage to go to the authorities and then worry about the reproach brought on Jehovah's name. There is no reproach brought on Jehovah. Jehovah don't care about his name. Jehovah's not intimidated by anything. He just wants us to be mature and behave in a way that brings justice. Meaning my daughter could be exposed to a child abuser and I would be completely left in the dark about it. Exactly. I ask myself, why would Jehovah be so unloving and not protect my children? Well, it's got nothing to do with Jehovah, has it? It's got to do with us adults. And this is where we get blindsided again. Is that what happened to me way in the beginning? I would think so. I have hardly any memories growing up. I have snippets of memories. I have often asked myself why. I come to find out now that that is a side effect of being abused. Now that's a very, very interesting passage. One of the side effects of being abused is to blot out the past, subconsciously blot out the past, because there's something inside us that rejects that kind of behavior towards us. It's an intrusion into our spirit and our mind. And if you have to hold it in and not be able to tell anyone, it's easier just to try and block it out. But then you get all these problems that come with that, because you're not letting your mind run freely. We are taught regularly at the meetings, assemblies, regional conventions and in all the publications that this organisation is God's only organisation that he is using. I don't know why the Jehovah's Witnesses come up with that. I don't think they needed to do that, which is the opposite of what Jeffrey Jackson said in court. In fact, that was the theme of the 2016 Regional Convention, Remain Loyal to Jehovah. See, they're trying to use the organisation and Jehovah as one, which is I can't even comment on that, because I don't know how anybody would believe that. Or in other words, remain loyal to God's organisation, yeah. Examining my faith and who I allow to teach me affects not only my salvation, but also my children's. I am very well aware of that, and that's why I'm examining my belief system. Good on you. That's called critical research. I'm very well aware of that, and that's why I'm examining my belief system. I'm going to read that again. I'm very well aware of that, and that's why I'm examining my belief system. We all have to examine our belief system. We really do. And you know what? After tens of thousands of dollars of university study and research and all of it, I mean tens of thousands and thousands of hours upon thousands of hours, you know what I come to the conclusion of? And it really made me angry. All I need to do is love my neighbour as myself. All this religious examination and all this study and all this and sacrifice and neglecting people and all this, all I had to do was love my neighbour as myself, which was what I was doing before I got mixed up in religion. Jesus, I knew who Jesus was before I even got involved in it. But we go on these great big journeys, don't we? We've got 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left of this session. I hope you're enjoying this. And honestly, it's so interesting to see inside the life of somebody. Like, this woman has really had a not the best journey, I would say. And honestly, when we study with people in the ministry, we have then go over their belief system with a fine-tooth comb. And so you should. Should we be any different? No. When I hand in a thesis, and I'll just bear with me. Now I'm just going to show you a thesis. This is a thesis that you have to do when you're doing a, say, a bachelor or a master's degree or the doctorate. This is actually part of a PhD paper that I'm working on at the moment. I've got to do 9 of these, 5,000 words. Now this is what ERIN's saying. I'll just go back to ERIN's letter there. Bear with me for a minute. I'm a bit lost here. She's saying, and I really appreciate this, she's saying, examining my faith and who I allow to teach me affects not only my salvation, but also my children's. I'm very well aware of that, and that's why I'm examining my belief system. And honestly, when we study with other people in the ministry, we have them go over their belief system with a fine-tooth comb. Now, I just want to show you this. When I hand in this paper, right, which takes hours and hours to write, you have to tell them everywhere you're getting your information from. You can't just put your own thoughts in there. You've got to build on thoughts and then make an argument. Legalism in the earliest church and all this stuff, and it goes on and on. This paper is still in the process of being at work. It's actually studies in Christian ethics and all that sort of stuff. They go over this, I'm telling you, with a fine-tooth comb, and you don't pass that paper, that core course paper, until it's legit. And that's what I like about these non-denominational organisations, because they're neutral, they're unbiased in their judgment. Now let's get back to ERIN's letter. We've got 30 seconds left for this session. Should we be any different? In my opinion, the answer is no. You have to critically research. You have to examine your belief system. That is so powerful, ERIN. I love this stuff. I love going inside and seeing what other people have learnt and how their journey has taught them. But why should I examine whether I'm in the faith? Now, that's a crucial question. Why should I examine whether I'm in the faith? You know, faith is something, and I've gone over time, but faith is a gift. It really is. When we study the Bible, we're look, let me put it like this, okay? When Jesus died on the cross, you won the lottery, whether you were going to accept it or not. You've won the lottery. It's all settled. You've won. The money's in the bank. When you study the Bible, it's just a way of trying to find out what you've actually won. That's all it is. That's all it is. So we'll finish this session on ERIN's letter here. I want your comments, because I'll comment on your comments. Let me know how I'm going with this. It's something new to me. I'm not the best reader, you know. I'm really not the best reader. But I'm doing my best with it. Please comment on this. We've got obviously a lot of sessions to do. It's 18,000 words. It's just starting to break open, isn't it? There's so many people have so much to give. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, Theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.